it going, DockHound fans? It's Dominic Stearn, your broadcaster for the 2023 season up in Lake Country. Today, I'll be talking with the architect of your 2023 Lake Country DockHounds. It's Tom Kelenic. Tom, how are you doing today?
Great to have you. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're less than 2 months away from the DockHound season kicking off, and what's the excitement around the front office about this year's team?
Well, I think a lot of new faces for sure. We did have a little bit of success in our first year, and I think we've done dramatic strides in finding players that are gonna make our ball club better. And the unfortunate thing with what's happened in Major League Baseball, there's just a lot of free agents out there that back 2, 3 years ago would still be in affiliated ball and quite possibly the big leagues. And I think clubs like ours are reaping the benefits from having some of these guys, either released or become free agents, which I think is going to make our whole league better.
And you talked about all these players coming from these affiliate teams. How are you able to find these players and get in contact with them, or are they reaching out to you to try and play for the Dockhounds?
Well, an interesting fact, last year we were the only independent baseball team in the country that had 4 players signed off their roster that went to affiliated ball. So, that is one of the factors, quite frankly, on when agents hear that there's that many players coming through our squad and going back into affiliated, they think that that's obviously a good thing, and they're willing to give a team up in Wisconsin a chance at getting their players and getting that guy through. On the other hand, I think with a lot of connections I have through affiliated ball, we have our pitching coach that Paul Wagner, he pitched about a dozen years in the big leagues, and so a lot of the teammates that he had through the years are now coaches in affiliated ball at some capacity. Um, and it we are a partner league to Major League Baseball. So what's interesting for us is we get a printout probably every 2 to 3 weeks from the front office on all the most recent free agents or guys who got released, and then we're able to contact them or their agents, and a lot of it is just creating a relationship with those people.
Is the fact that the Dockhounds were able to get 4 players during last season into affiliated ball, is that part of the recruiting pitch to some of these players to say, hey, come play for the Dockhounds? Because we've done it. And I mean, it's just 1 year, but you're already showing a track record of success.
That definitely, I think, is an angle, and with some bias, I think we have the best facility in the league. Back in January, we opened up a training center. I would call it an Olympic training center. Brian Bott and Joe Thomas are partners in that, and literally 15, 20 feet from the clubhouse, these guys can go and get their training done and take a right turn and go 40 more steps. And we have indoor cages where the guys can hit and throw a bullpen. And there's a lot that goes into it. I don't know necessarily if there's one thing that's better than the other. But I hope that we continue to do it the right way.
So let's talk about kind of the dynamic of this roster. There are some players who have some Major League Baseball experience, and there are some players who are coming fresh out of college. And there will be some more players who get added onto the roster in the middle of the season that just finish up their collegiate season. How do they mesh together? Is that more something the coaching staff focuses on, or are you just trying to get as many players as possible and it doesn't matter what level of experience they have?
I think experience is a factor without a doubt. I think what people tend to forget is that these gentlemen are not kids anymore, right? So I mean, I've coached at the highest level of travel ball, and it was always an area where we wanted the kids to gel. And you hear this all the time, even at the big league level. But I feel that they're men and they come here to do their job, and they will segregate somehow, whether it's by position or by what time the guys show up in the morning or whatnot. And I don't know if that's necessarily even on the coaches. I think it's a responsibility to players to figure out a way to all get along and play hard together.
Is there anything that you particularly are looking for in some of your hitters or some of your pitchers, or Is it just you looking at stats and like, trying to find any connections that you have with any of these players to get them to Lake Country?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, if someone is left-handed and the same guy right next to him has the same numbers and he's right-handed, I don't think that plays a big part. I'm an old school baseball hustle guy. It's extremely important to me. I think it's important to our community and our fan base. Um, I think every guy that we've had on our roster has the ability to get to a higher level, whether it's in affiliated ball or double A, triple A, big leagues, whatnot. But I think we look at character a lot. Characters on the field and off the field, and we do our homework. The agents are going to tell you everything you want to hear just to sign their player, but we'll go in depth a little bit more and possibly call the affiliated manager, or if I know the scout from that team in the Midwest or the scout who actually drafted him, we'll go to that extreme just to find out what kind of player he is.
It's awesome that you're trying to get those great players for the great fans of the DockHounds. And for the DockHounds, the pitching was kind of what held the team back from, getting up into that tier that the DockHounds really want to get to. How are you able to improve the pitching staff going into the season?
Well, to give some credit, I think our starting pitchers did extremely well last year. I'm not a big analytic guy, but you could see it, right? I mean, Alex McRae by far is arguably one of the best pitchers in the league. He had some major league time. Evan Krasinski was in AAA with the Cardinals. Even a younger kid that we picked up, Nick Harold. I think he might be the first one off our team this year to get signed. Very competitive and just needs a little bit more grooming and experience to jump into affiliated ball. But I thought our pitchers, our starters did really well last year, and we've added to that some big league arms, some AAA arms. But looking at last year, it was really our bullpen, our middle relief guys. No matter what league you play in, again, if it's travel ball or the big leagues, you got to come in and compete and throw strikes. And most of these guys have been in double A, triple A, the big leagues. If you don't throw strikes, they're not going to swing and you're going to get yourself in trouble. So when we looked at some of the guys that we did bring in, it was more about command. It really wasn't about a velo. Now there are some guys that can throw damn near 100 miles an hour, but that's not everything. We kind of saw that with the WBC, and we see it every day in the big leagues. It's really not how fast you throw; it's where you can put it.
Yeah, I was going to specifically highlight Alex McRae and Evan Krasinski, the two returning starters for this year's team. Yeah, just how important is it going to be for those guys to continue their success with the DockHounds? So not only they could potentially get picked up by affiliates, but also just extend themselves, because in a long season where these guys are playing 100 games, how important is it to have those starters that the team can depend on to give you 5, 6, potentially even 7 innings?
And again, I think last year we were under the gun, so to speak, with getting the facility built, and really couldn't spend the kind of time that we have this year on player acquisition. And the way minor league goes, and now the way our league goes, is there's 6 games in a row, really to cut down on travel expenses and whatnot. I would think this year we're probably looking to have a 6-man, excuse me, 6-man staff, which will give some of our veteran guys more of a break, so to speak, and not pitch every 5th game. And I think that'll be important for us, not only to be better, but to get to the playoffs. And then if we get there, if we're fortunate enough, we would reevaluate what that looks like based on our schedule. We brought in Demetrius Sims, another shortstop, which I think, quite frankly, could be the highest athletic player that was on the release or waiver wire this off season. Everybody I've talked to has said how athletic he is and how competitive he is, and we're really excited to have him in camp.
Yeah, he was going to be the next player I was going to ask you about, because his numbers in Double A last year were extremely good. And then as he got up to Triple A, they kind of teetered off a little bit. So I mean, how fortunate is it for you that he falls into the hands of the DockHounds?
It's huge, and I don't know any other word to say. I mean, he's going to compete. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, he's smooth, and just really, really excited for us to get him under contract.
Are there any other position players that when you've been in the recruiting process for getting them to Lake Country that have really stood out to you and you think could really make an impact at WBC Park?
I mean, I want to say just about every one of them, to be honest. I mean, the Marcus Chu kid, again, super talented, athletic, can run, can hit, probably play some first base, play some outfield for us. Ashton McGee, some of the local fans might have a connection with him. He was Double A with Biloxi, got injured, and quite frankly, I think him being injured was the only reason he got released. He is 100%. He's got big pop. He's more of an old school throwback player. He's going to play hard, and we even made some trades that I think that are going to be very beneficial. Again, to just relieve some of the stress that some of the guys who counted on so much last year to pull us through. I think they'll be better with the guys we have in camp.
People who are watching this back at home can see the stuff of your son Jared. He's actually had an amazing spring training thus far. Is this the year that he like really breaks out and lives up to that high prospect tout that he had for several years, and including being traded for All-Star closer Edwin Diaz?
Yeah, I mean, there's what people don't understand is there's just so much that can go right and so much that can go wrong. And it's an emotional situation not only for him but for everybody that's close to him. His expectations are higher than everybody else's, and I know it isn't like it's from a lack of trying, but it's learning the game and it's learning the speeds and now he'll start to see some of these pitchers for the second or third time, which I think helps. Definitely the shift I think is a big benefit, not just to him but to all the guys in the big leagues. For averages to maybe get back to where they should be. But we're hopeful. We'll be up in Seattle opening week to root him and his team on, and got our fingers crossed. I think they got a heck of a squad as well. They've come a long ways in the last 4 or 5 years, and I know they're thinking World Series up there. So keep our fingers crossed that everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, the Mariners certainly are a fun team to watch, and the DockHounds should be this year too. What is the one thing that you think fans should be most excited about before I let you go?
I just think pure athleticism. I mean, even Jack Groshanks, by far, might be one of the most talented catchers in our league. Expectations are high for him. He's got it on himself. I think the pitching staff is second to none in the league for sure. The infield is second to none. And then when we got some young guys on the squad as well that we would like to see and hopefully give them some at bats and give them some time to understand the league and understand the speed of the game. And I think the Aaron Simmons kid is we all got our fingers crossed. He was a Division III All-American here at Stevens Point in the state of Wisconsin, and he too. I mean, he's got all kinds of different tools. But again, when you mix in a 23-year-old player out of college to say a 30-year-old player that's been playing professional for 7 years, it's quite the difference. And it's just how long the organization has patience to let these guys try to figure it out.
All right, thank you so much for joining me today, Tom. Can't wait to get up to Lake Country and meet you and the rest of the team.